Welcome to another exhilarating episode of Comic Book Straight Talk, brought to you from the secret basement inside one of America's oldest comic shops, Tulsa's own The Comic Empire. Now, true believers, open up your ear holes and get ready to have your head filled with the best comic book knowledge this galaxy can handle. That's right, it's time for another nerd overload with Comic Book Straight Talk.
Welcome back to Comic Book Straight Talk. This is Dalian.
This is Terry.
Kenny.
Carrington.
And continuing on our travels, we are rebroadcasting from the back of the Mystery Machine. They came by that last recording and said, hey, you want to go with us? We're like, sure. So we'll be doing the show from the back there. So we got Fred driving it. Daphne's in the passenger seat. Scooby and Shaggy are back here with us somewhere. And what are we talking about today, Terry?
Travesties and tragedies in comics, basically.
I do, before we have a start, it's a good topic. A friend of mine, friend of ours, well, all of ours, Jeff Brown, we were talking about this, probably doing this episode about that, and he said that his opinion, the greatest travesty in comics is Marvel putting out crap that nobody wants. So, that's Jeff Brown, a friend of ours, opinion. But, so travesties, what about them?
Well, just some of the greatest ones that they brought up. So, like, one of mine is, which I think is kind of interesting because it could be a tragedy, could not be. It is sort of a tragedy, but the death in the family.
We're talking the death
of Jason Todd.
In the family, not of the family. Okay.
Right. Which was a great storyline, and I guess was a tragedy, but it could also not be considered a tragedy because Jason Todd was voted by the people to be killed.
Now, I read the comics back then. You didn't. You started later, but did you call the number and vote for him to die?
Did I?
Yes.
I don't remember if I did or not.
I know I didn't. I
think I may have.
Because I think I started like a little bit right after that. Because
I didn't like that character at all.
Really?
Yeah. With the character later comes back as the Red Hood and is a beloved character.
Spoilers.
Yeah, well, there may be some little kid back there and out there going, Scooby hasn't read it yet, see? Scooby hasn't read that yet.
But no, it was a really great story, really well written, worth the read.
Well, and it's one of
the best deaths ever, too.
Right.
The Joker blew him up.
Well, he beat the tar out of him with the crowbar.
Then he blew him up.
And his mama. So, yeah. And just, it was great. Starlin wrote it, if I'm correct. And so, I mean, it was just a great
and
story.
Aparo art.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, and that still resonates too. It still holds up for a good read.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the Joker becomes an ambassador, and I know I'm going spoiler too. Batman can't get him, and Superman's trying to stop Batman from enacting, vengeance, and good story. So, what do you got? Travesties.
The death of Gwen Stacy.
Yes.
Because, he thinks he's saving her, and the act of saving her is what kills her, and she was going to die anyway, but...
And the thing also is he never really knows, I think, did he really kill her, but that anguish is did he?
Yeah.
Well, I think he knows, yeah.
I don't know if he ever really did figure out was it the Green Goblin, did he already kill her, or was it him trying to, the act of saving her really do the final?
Well, but in the panel, that's the big crack.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to imagine that it broke her neck.
Well, and even now, in several new issues and stuff, the Goblin's talking to Peter, and he's like, or Norman's talking to Peter, he's like, hey, I did that because you had to, in saving her, you killed her. She was alive when I threw her off. You saved her. That's what killed her. And so, but yeah, I mean, they got death threats over that, I'm sure. I mean,
in the 70s?
well, probably not death threats, but threatening letters.
Yeah.
About that, yes.
And also, Spider-Man, not only Gwen Stacy, but he also has the death of his uncle Ben.
I really think the death of Gwen Stacy was really the big turning point for the character. because and I say that and for the readers because he was before that it was called like fun games, you know, kind of he was a happy-go-lucky kind of fun Peter Parker, and that kind of started his turn kind of towards a more angsty kind of Peter Parker. I think about that time, not like over angsty, but just slightly. It started building that.
By angst, do you mean brooding?
Yes, broody.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of when Spider-Man lost its innocence.
Yeah.
But
then there was also the death of Jean DeWolf and Captain Stacy, and
right.
I mean, Spider-Man, his whole life has been filled with death.
Yeah, unfortunately, but it's been not like overplayed. But it's always been, you know. Now the DeWolf storyline was really a good storyline too, though. The whole Sin Eater and trying to figure out who Sin Eater was, and then going to find out, I believe it was one of the police officers. So.
Yeah, and she kind of sort of became Spider-Man's sort of
mentor.
Like Batman's.
Well, because after Captain Stacy died, because that's what Captain Stacy had become. Kind of was Spider-Man's Commissioner Gordon, like you're saying.
Right. And so they built that relationship, and then Sin Eater killed her. So yeah, definitely that was another growing point for that character and the storylines for Spider-Man. Yeah.
But I think we can all agree though that the greatest tragedy to ever happen to comics was Fox getting the rights to Fantastic Four. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
No, I actually agree. Yes, and the X-books too, or X-Men movies too.
I think that the last two X-Men movies were pretty good. Or
they were better than the previous
First
ones.
Class and
I mean, I thought the Apocalypse. I mean, none of them
even though they
great,
ruined
the
them for us,
it was okay.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It's just. For one, they made him look like Ivan Ooze from Power Rangers.
Right.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. I think the next one will be better. Are they doing another one?
I think so, yeah.
Because it's supposed to be
Phoenix.
Mr. Sinister.
Yeah, Phoenix I think is coming out too.
Yeah.
Actually, a tragedy one would be the death of Elektra story. Even though there again we all know she came back, but you know, the whole build-up, you know, you had build-up of this relationship between her and Daredevil and Matt Murdock, and even actually the death of Karen Page would be a good one, too.
I was going to say, Daredevil's, I mean, that's his whole shtick is the tragedy.
Right. More so than
because, I mean, him becoming Daredevil was saving another person's life, and then, you know, battling Jack Murdock was killed because he wouldn't throw a fight, so... I mean, his whole series has been about the tragedy in his life.
Yeah.
The thing that also got me was you know, she died by her own side. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Karen Page, what did she not? Did she become a prostitute, druggie?
I think she did die of an overdose.
Died of an overdose of drugs.
Yep. Yeah. She got hooked on drugs. Yeah, I remember that. Well, the death of Supergirl fighting the Anti-Monitor Crisis.
Yeah.
And the death of Barry Allen. Fighting Anti-Monitor and Crisis.
Granted, these characters have come back, but at the time...
Yeah, at the time, right.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people thought that they were never going to bring back Barry Allen.
Well, they would always tease it, like, oh, we're going to bring Barry back, and it's like a flashback sequence, or, you know, it's someone dressed up as Barry, or, you know, but yeah.
And the art that Perez did, like, you know, especially with the death of Supergirl.
Yeah.
And when they saw Flash just disappear into a skeleton, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Just, wow.
Yep.
Again, anytime you do a big book like that, Perez should be doing the art.
Yep.
Wow.
Well,
back then, yes, I'm not sure.
Well, and it's a newer one, but kind of new one. Identity Crisis was, you know, you had the death of
Sue
Dibney by Jean Loring, which was the Adams wife, and that just there again, the story was really good. The art was awesome, and it kind of kept. It wasn't just all one, you know. It kind of had highs and very few lows. It was really an emotional story.
Was that the one where they found out they'd all been mind wiped?
think so. Yeah.
Because Batman was about to go on a tear, and
Although there was that I think it's the first or second issue. It's like the first half the book is the Justice League versus Deathstroke, and
Yeah.
man, that is just an awesome battle. But anyway,
A newer one that kind of resonates not only for comic readers but also comic viewers is The Walking Dead: The Death of Glenn. It was kind of
who got bashed in by
Yeah, he
Negan.
was kind of a little bit of the heart and soul of that group. I think everybody knows by now, but when I first read that, I was like, oh my gosh, because he was just bashing away at Glenn's
yeah,
face.
it
Was popping
that
out.
was
definitely
pretty
one of the more
vicious.
brutal deaths
Yes.
ever. Was Glenn dying from? Yeah,
I haven't actually seen the show, so
I have a desire to go just start watching it from now and not worry about going back and watching. previous
I just
seasons.
remember seeing on Twitter that night all of the people, not Glenn, not
Yeah,
Glenn.
yeah, not
Oh my
Glenn."
God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And all the people that were threatening riots over it, and yeah,
Captain America we all knew that he was going to come back, but him getting shot by a bullet
by Sharon
by
Carter.
Sharon Carter.
It was a time bullet.
Yeah, that was. I'm a
That was
huge
travesty.
Brubaker fan,
That was a
but
travesty of
time
believability.
bullet, that's kind of silly. But
That was a bit of travesty of not only him dying, but also of rioting too. Yeah. But similar to that is also back when they killed off Superman, and that was a big, the big market gimmick
Yeah.
then. So a lot of people were up in arms about that. And
Although if you read that Superman 75, I mean that is a brutal fight.
with Doomsday,
Doomsday. I mean it's and even watching the Death of Superman animated movie, it's still they kept the brutality in there, and it was being a young kid, not young. I was a teenager, obviously. I almost graduated high school out of it. I mean, it was intense.
I think a death that really brought a character more to the forefront, because he was considered just a bit of a jokester most of the time, was the death of Ted Kord
Yeah,
being shot by
Maxwell
Lord.
Maxwell Lord. Yep.
Yep.
who in turn got his neck snapped by
Wonder
Wonder
Woman
Woman.
Yes.
on TV or video anyway. Well, one of the greatest tragedies that has led to big thing was the death of Martha and Thomas Wayne.
Yeah,
The huge, impacts.
that's just like,
But definitely.
Uncle Ben. And,
Right. Yeah. Right.
The death of Vlad from Hack Slash.
Yeah, because she depended on him.
Yeah.
That was
Basically her muscle when she lost the bat.
one of the early
Couldn't
deaths
use
I
that.
think that really set off people was the death of Pharaoh Lad.
Back in the Legion, yeah.
Because back then they didn't expect that,
No.
and he remained
Well,
dead.
and a lot of these, like we're talking about, you have to remember the crises, the crises. I'm sorry. Well, the crisis on Infinite Earths, and the Amazing Spider-Man, death of Gwen Stacy, and all that. They didn't have the internet, obviously,
Right.
so they didn't know. All they had was a little blurb in the back of the book and word of mouth. So, I mean, to be a fan back then, they didn't even have 800 numbers to call to get, hey, this is what happened, like they did in the 90s and stuff. And I mean, yeah, I can understand why people would be upset.
The internet has been one of the greatest things and also one of the worst things to ever happen to comics.
Yeah, because you'll get spoilers now for issues coming out 3 weeks from now, and it's just it takes away that feel that you have.
But Dal's the first one on there trying to find them.
I admit, I will admit,
He just
I
loves the
I
spoilers.
do. I post
Well,
spoilers
and then-
sometimes, but
And then you get, like, Bleeding Cool is always hyping up these books. Oh, you need to get this. This is going to be great. And then you read it and you're like, this is garbage.
this is a travesty.
So,
The graphic novel Captain Marvel. Where
Death
he
of
dies
Captain
at the end.
Marvel.
Death of
Yep.
Captain Marvel.
That was good.
And it's just and
I have heard it's a tearjerker.
It could be.
But, I haven't read it.
You never read it?
I have never sat down and read The Death of Captain Marvel. Sorry, I know.
Silver Surfer's last 2 issues were pretty tragic.
The new one?
Yeah. Spoiler alert, if you haven't read it and you're going to read it, don't listen to this part, but Dawn Greenwood dies.
Oh. Well, and this is...
But they did it really cool, like they went back in time to a point before the universe existed.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first flash of light that happened in the universe was Silver Surfer releasing her energies. And that's why in every alien tongue, the first light of morning is called dawn.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
They kind of did it in a neat way.
Yeah. Astro City. This last couple issues of Astro City were kind of a little tough read. Dealing with the I want to call him Super Dog, but I don't think that's what it was. I can't remember what his name was. But it's this guy that steals this amulet, and he burgers with his dog, and his dog's a corgi. And so he becomes Wonder Dog kind of thing. And so, and he can hear the dog talk and everything.
That was a cool cover, though, with a dog, with a corgi flying on the cover.
Yes, right? And, I read the first part of it, and it's like, oh, hey, corgis only live 15 years. I'm like, oh, no. No. And so, yeah, spoiler here, the second issue comes out, and the corgi does die at the end. And, but it was just such a touching, it was such a good book, and it was, I shed tears over it a little bit. I mean, it was sad. So, but so it was a tragedy. Sorry.
Barbara Gordon in The Killing Joke.
Yeah.
Getting shot
And paralyzed by the Joker.
But in a way, yeah, it was a tragedy.
It was a tragedy,
but
it also created a whole new character that was
Oracle.
great.
Right.
Yeah.
That a lot of people wish they'd go back to.
Yes.
And not the Oracle thing that was growing in her spine.
Right.
That was stupid. Yeah, it was in New 52. They were saying that the Oracle thing had split and became...
All you had to do was say New 52.
Yeah. But yes, the Oracle, she was a great character.
Yes.
Yep.
And I was always one of those people that was like, I'm not going to read the new Batgirl because Barbara Gordon's Batgirl. And then when she became Batgirl again, I realized how much I liked her as Oracle instead.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that I wanted Stephanie Brown back being Batgirl. So
another classic tragedy was the drug issues for both Green Arrow, for one. Speedy being a drug addict.
Green Lantern.
Or Green Lantern,
Green Lantern. Yeah.
Well, Green Arrow. It was Green Arrow, Green Lantern, but it was Green Lantern. Right.
And the Spider-Man issues.
And the 3-issue Spider-Man issues that were not... I don't know if the DC ones were had the comics coat on them or not.
They did.
They did. So I know the Marvel ones did not. And so...
Yeah.
But, the whole picture of Speedy shooting up on the cover is just, There again, that's a character that's...
I always figured Speedy was
Another one that was kind of I guess you could call it a tearjerker moment was, and it happened to a villain, was Mr. Freeze's wife dying.
Yes.
Yep. And Kingpin's wife.
Vanessa, yeah.
Yep. Both of those were kind of like, whoa. You started feeling sympathy for the villain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Mr. Freeze, I mean, that was his whole motivation, was trying to save her, get the money to save her, and because he kept her in ice, and so.
Definitely.
Is that all the tragedies
What
you
tragedy
had?
you got?
Why are you looking at me?
You're our key researcher on this. I mean,
there's always tons of... I figured you guys would...
Well, you just had a stack of papers. It looked like it was a bigger list than...
No, I mean, you guys brought up some of them anyway.
I mean, the 4,387 deaths of Jean Grey.
Yeah,
he does have that on there. I just saw that.
Yeah.
But the first one, though...
But I figured that would be brought up.
Yeah. The first death of Jean Grey.
Yeah, the original. Was just...
Well, that whole Phoenix saga, because they were gonna execute her.
Yeah.
You know, and the Shayar
Was the death of Wolverine, was that a tragedy?
Well, that was a tragedy on readers.
It was a tragedy that they put out all new Wolverine after that. But
Yeah, I didn't think that was really a tragedy either. I mean, I thought about putting that down, but
Actually, the all new Wolverine with the X-23 Laura, it's been a great, fun read. But
she should be X-23 and he should be Wolverine.
I know, Will. She
But
was honoring his memory. And
that's just because I'm an old curmudgeon.
another sort of tragedy that you really feel sympathy for is the Thing.
No, I don't, because he whines about it
Well,
constantly.
The initial, he does, but just the initial thought of him turning into this and not being able to,
right.
you know.
All the others can revert back to human
Right.
or revert back to normal.
He's stuck.
And he's stuck, yeah.
And I guess the torment between Bruce and the Hulk.
No, you don't.
Going back and forth, you know, he can't escape the Hulk. The Hulk can't escape him.
Yeah.
They're tied together.
That's
why they're each other's greatest adversary.
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of going back what you were saying about Jean Grey and back to the Mutants deal was the death of Colossus.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, when we mentioned it on a previous episode, he took in that whole legacy virus to save everybody, and died kind of a hero and everything. And then, cause I mean, he was the backbone a lot for the '80s, early '90s X-Men books.
Yep.
I mean, he was the heart of the character, and have him die like that was just traumatizing.
And then when they brought him back, the reasoning was he just got better.
Yeah. On some alien world. I want to still have a story where he got from in the ground, dead, to the alien world.
A big sort of tragedy sacrifice is Kitty Pryde trapped in the bullet.
That was just a tragedy in itself.
Yeah, it was kind of sad though. Yeah, traveling through the cosmos. Yeah.
That was another example of a good writer doing a what the hell moment.
Yeah.
As Joss Whedon coming up with that. But another good tragedy that didn't result in a death was Rogue stealing Captain Marvel or Ms. Marvel's power, and put her in a coma for a long time.
Yeah.
And she had to learn how to deal without it and becoming binary. And
the storyline was pretty tragic. When I was initially reading it, I didn't think Batman would be coming back, and that was with Bane breaking his back. I did not think he'd be back. The other part of that was that
it went so long.
No, that Jean became Batman. Oh, I hated that.
Jean,
yeah. Anarchy, basically, becoming Batman.
No, Azrael.
Azrael.
Not Anarchy.
So that.
Another kind of along the line of tragedy was the death of
Silver St. Cloud.
Well, I was going to say Coast City.
Oh.
You know, in that whole Reign of Superman storyline, because that drove Hal Jordan crazy, and he went crazy, and that became Parallax.
Killing Parallax.
Yeah.
Well, also the big tragedy about that was showing.
But yeah, Silver St. Cloud's death too was bad.
That he was still he was more human.
Yeah. Well, it's still a tragedy though.
Right.
The whole city dying.
That's what I'm saying. No, I'm saying about Parallax. I mean, or about
Hal Jordan.
Hal Jordan. You know, he was still just human, even though he had all this power.
Right, but he kept trying to bring the city back, and then he went. You know, he redeemed himself several years later and became the Spectre.
That happened in 0 Hour, right? Because he sacrificed himself to save the universe. In 0
Final
Hour.
Night. I think it happened in Final Night. He sacrificed himself to restart the sun.
That's it.
Yeah. And he became the Spectre. No.
Yeah,
that was a travesty too.
That was a tragedy.
That was a tragedy.
And Terry's tragedy was the Question.
Death of the Question was pretty
Death of the
traumatic.
Question was very traumatic for me, and Big Sage to me is still the Question. I like Montoya.
Yeah. No,
I just don't think she should be the
greatest question ever.
What?
Renee Montoya is the greatest question ever.
No, that's a tragedy. She should just go back to being a detective, and Big Sage is the Question. So.
And we can't forget Kyle Rayner's girlfriend getting stuffed in the refrigerator.
Like the second or third episode
It
issue.
launched a whole movement
Oh
in
my
comics.
God, it did. What was her name? Gail Simone.
Yeah,
Women stuffed in refrigerators.
women in refrigerators.
Man, that was vicious. That was vicious and cruel the way they did it. Yes. Major Force wanting to get Kyle. And you got him all right.
Mm-hmm.
And then Artemis dying in Wonder Woman.
But she's back though, isn't she?
Well, yeah, because
Yeah.
Wonder Woman went into the
Underworld. and got her. Okay.
underworld and stole her from Hades.
Well, the initial start of the Punisher was that
Yeah.
his whole family was wiped out by the mobsters. You know, so that got him going. What about the death of Archie?
Nah.
Well, I mean, if it was,
Betty and Veronica were still around, so it's all good.
Well, I mean, if it was set in the normal Archie universe,
Right.
yes, but it being a side
Being a
thing.
side.
But still, I mean, it's people are like, oh, Archie's dead. And it's all, no, he's not dead.
Or along those lines in Afterlife with Archie, that part where Hot Dog got hit by Reggie's car,
Right.
and
That
died,
was-
and
yeah,
him
and-
begging Sabrina to bring him back.
That launched the whole. Is that still going?
I don't think so.
Did they ever finish it?
Sabrina gets about 2 issues every 2 years.
Yeah, because I mean,
They come out, bam, bam, and then you don't see him again for a
I
year.
can't think when the last Afterlife with Archie came out.
Last year, I think.
That's a travesty right there.
Yeah, it is a tragedy.
I think Punisher would like to forget that him and Archie went at it.
You know, laugh what you will and say what you will, laugh what you want. The whole.
You'll get it out there.
I'll get it out somewhere. Yeah, forget it. That crossover was actually pretty good.
It was one of the few
It was,
crossovers
it
that was
was.
good.
Yeah.
Just like the Archie versus Predator.
Yeah.
That was actually a fun book.
Willie, we kind of talking about the origins, the Beast of Burdens.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's I mean, if you think about it, because they're seeing ghosts and everything, and I mean.
Well, and then the one dog gives up his life to save him, and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a.
I had to go back and read that.
It's a good series. If you're an animal lover, it's tough to get through though.
I know one of the best death scenes in comics was when Catwoman shot Black Mask.
Yeah. That was good.
Shoved him out the window of that high-rise. That was great.
One of the worst ones was the TV where Thor kicked Hulk out of the helicopter or something like that, and he died
You know,
from
Thor
falling.
has Thor really had any tragic? I don't think Thor's had
Yeah,
any-
Jane Foster. has
Taking over, or-
well,
or-
no,
oh,
but the
oh,
fact
have
that
cancer,
she
yeah,
has
true,
stage 4
that is true.
cancer,
It is
Yeah.
pretty tragic now. So.
and he knows that if he takes that power from her, takes Mjolnir from her, she's gonna die.
Yeah.
So
Guess he won't be taking
back.
the hammer back.
and there's tons of tragedies in X-Men. I mean,
Yeah.
too many to name.
That's because there's too many X-Men to name.
Although, you know, in what was it, 94 or 95 when Thunderbird died?
There again, yeah, that was.
I didn't really care. I thought he was kind of a jerk anyway.
That's like Jason Todd, you know.
Yeah.
Although it was a great storyline the way he died, he's like, he was a jerk. So, but interesting how he came back around though.
Yeah. Well, in a way, with Thunderbirds dying, it gave way to Warpath.
Yeah.
And they kind of evolved Warpath up, and
He was kind of a jerk when he first showed up,
yeah,
too.
yeah.
We should do a show on the greatest
Hollywood
jerks
jerks.
in comic books.
Tragedy would be Jessica Jones and the Purple Man.
Yeah.
All the things that he did.
Yeah,
to
everything
her.
he did
Yeah.
to her, yeah. Howard the Duck, sort of a tragedy.
The movie was.
The movie was, yeah.
The movie was.
So,
I
I know Vampirella had Adam Van Helsing die.
Yeah, I told Kenny the other day that one of the greatest travesties was her outfit, and he kicked the back of the seat there.
It's one of the most iconic costumes in all of
It is.
comics.
It is an iconic costume, but man, is it?
He goes,
She's wearing go-go boots. How can you have a problem with it?
she looks like she should be like from Planet 9 or something. You know?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, though, the costume was based on Barbarella.
True.
That's
yeah.
So,
yeah.
and was designed by one of the biggest feminists in comics, Trina Robbins. So
Back in the 60s.
67,
Really? Wow.
66, 67. It came out in 67. But,
Oh, that I did not know. Okay, I did not know she designed it.
Yep.
See, I learned something on the podcast today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have a problem with it. So why does everyone else?
But does Gloria Steinem have a problem with it?
I don't know.
Who cares?
I know she had a problem with Wonder Woman wearing pants.
Yeah, that didn't work out too well. I mean, it wasn't bad, but
She said it's, just as iconic as Batman and Superman's costume, so why change it?
right.
That's true.
True. That's been some of the travesties we did. We did a whole show on some of that. Some of the changing of costumes have been
Black
travesties.
Canary with the
Mhm.
pirate boots.
Yeah.
That and
I
the
think those are two episodes that are our highest viewed. It was a fashion
Really,
episode we
those
did
are
last
fashion
year.
episodes. Those were good
Yeah,
episodes.
they were fun
We had
episodes,
some
yeah.
great guest stars in
Yeah.
there.
and I'm sorry, but I think Nightwing's original costume was a tragedy. I think it was awful.
It wasn't great.
Yeah. Well, another tragedy. I'm sorry. Was the betrayal of Tara in New Teen Titans.
Tara's betrayal.
Tara's betrayal. Well, yeah. Because here they thought that she was a teammate and everything, and all of a sudden, she turns on him, and that was pretty tragic. If you're a fan of the character, and you're like, "Oh man, this is a great character," and everything, all of a sudden, well, what?
Wouldn't
So,
the
yeah.
bigger tragedy though be Jericho dying?
Well,
You like Jericho?
if you like Jericho, sure.
Kind of like Thunderbird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah.
Well, that could that could kind of lead to a whole other thing about Jericho's dad was Deathstroke, and he was like probably one of the worst father figures ever.
True.
He believed in what are some of the worst parenting figures within comic books?
We'll do that around. Do a Mother's Day, Father's Day combo split of the worst parents in comic history.
Yeah,
Aunt May would have to be up there. She
That's
lets-
the worst.
Yeah.
some of the worst.
Yeah. She doesn't keep an eye on him. He's running all over the
She keeps
place.
feeding him what, wheat germ pancakes or what are they?
We germ.
Wheat germ.
He has a lot of fiber in it or something. He's like right in the middle of a mission. He's
There you go.
flying along. I gotta make a pit stop.
I don't
here.
like where this podcast is
Yeah, I think
on.
we've just hit the low there. Alright.
I think we've kind of
Definitely,
hit a lot of tragedies, and
Yeah, let us know if we've missed any.
I'm sure we have.
I'm sure we have too.
There's a ton
That's
of
just the
independent.
whole comics are set up on
Yeah.
tragedies
Oh,
and
yeah.
travesties. So
Yeah, definitely comment your suggestions on greatest tragedies and
stories,
tragedies.
which stories you read that you thought were just so tragic that kind of got you teary-eyed, and
especially the independent comics, because
Oh,
I know
yeah.
we missed a ton of those.
Oh yeah, it's hard to
Yeah,
capture them all. Definitely.
yes. I mean, well, one tragedy would be Hellboy's death.
Or the fact that he and Liz can't be together.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely a comment on the Facebook page, Comic Book Straight Talk, and I guess that's it.
Yeah, we'll talk to you later.
Have a good one. This is Dalian.
Terry,
Kenny.
Carrington.
Bye.
goodbye.